What's good, TMG fam? It's your boy L, and I'm back with another reaction. How y'all feel? Welcome back to the channel. Salute. Listen, man, no jail can hold this man. No jail can hold this man. If that title don't draw you in, bro, I don't know what to tell you, fam. I absolutely don't. It got me so ready to get to this video, I didn't want to do an intro. So, with that being said, let's get to the video.
Prison break or chicken run. Film and television has long made breaking out of jail look awesome. But the reality is that it's much tougher to break out of a maximum security prison than the films make it look. Not that anybody told these people who broke out of prison in ways you wouldn't think of. There's probably no prison quite as famous as Alcatraz.
Right.
It's literally been referenced in The Simpsons. No! And if that's not the peak of iconic, we don't know what is. While there were several attempted prison breaks from Alcatraz, none are quite as legendary as the one that went down in June 1962. For those unfamiliar with Alcatraz, this maximum security federal penitentiary operated from 1934 to 1963 and was built on an island about 1.5 miles off the coast of San Francisco, California. Even if you did manage to escape, you would immediately find yourself with another problem to solve. How exactly do you cross the water and get to the mainland? It was specifically designated for housing the most problematic prisoners who continually caused trouble at other less secure federal prisons. Alcatraz had such a reputation for being inescapable, it was thought that not even Houdini himself could spring this joint. But then Frank Morris arrived. With an IQ that put him in the top 2% of the American population, he
see, y'all just think he was somebody who just got lucky. No, it's IQ, top 2%. Oh, this is making it even better.
He was no everyday criminal. If anyone could bust out of this place, it was him. Teaming up with fellow inmates Alan West and brothers John and Clarence England, Frank Morris set his plan in motion. Behind all the cells was a foolishly unguarded 3-foot wide utility corridor. As the months rolled by, Morris sneakily swiped as many drill bits as he could, as well as a vacuum cleaner, and using that Tony Stark-sized brain of his, fashioned it all together into an imperfect but working drill. Over the course of half a year, Morris and his friends took turns using saw blades, old spoons, and his homemade drill to slowly widen the ventilation ducts under the sinks in their cells. The major flaw in this—
How long? A year and a half? That's patience. See, most people, when they break out, attempt to break out, they put this plan together at what, Chow Hall. You know what I'm saying? They figured it out. Then, like, all right, we ready to go. 20-minute plan. 20-minute plan. No, he took his time. Hell, that's all you got is time, so he took his time.
Plan, of course, was the sound of the drill. But Morris had already prepared for this. He masked the sound with strategically timed accordion playing, and their drilling progress was hidden from the guards during the day by the use of false walls. Come the night of the escape, they put papier-mâché dummies that looked like them, complete with hair, in their beds, and upon reaching the island's edge with choppy waters, they were ready to sail by using a rudimentary raft that Morris had constructed out of stolen raincoats. MacGyver,
What?
eat your heart out.
What? Who would have thought to use raincoats?
The plan didn't go off without a hitch, however. Alan West's fake wall kept sliding out of place, so, to try to get it to stay up to avoid the guards noticing, he glued it in with wet cement. Come the night of the escape, the cement had permanently set, effectively turning his fake wall into a real one. It took him far too long to rip it down, and Morris and the others were not patient types. They sailed off without him, leaving poor Alan behind to tell the tale of how his former fellow inmates escaped while never getting to escape with them. What became of Morris and the others as they hit the waters? Sadly, we may never know. An investigation by the FBI concluded they never reached the shore, implying their makeshift boat fell apart and they lost their lives at sea. But there are consistent rumors the men are still alive and well to this day in Brazil.
I like that. I like that. You don't know. Well, I mean, not the fact that we got, criminals out there. I don't know what I'm saying right now. But I don't know. Maybe escapes do something for me. I don't know, bro. But who's to say don't know? How crazy is that? That was supposed to be the hardest prison ever to break out of. Schofield!
To be fair, if anyone could survive such an ordeal, it's Frank Morris. Do you think he made it or not? Tell us in the comments. While prison breaks in fiction are often romanticized and made to look awesome,
I think I heard that story before. Now that I've seen that picture at the end of them dudes, I think I've heard that story before. Recently, too. Maybe in a video.
Not all methods are as cool as having your brother, who got the blueprints to the prison tattooed on his body, get incarcerated with you.
I'm getting you out of here.
Some prison breaks can be
Link the sink.
a little lacking in dignity. In 2016, the Russian inmate Rustam Shakrutinov chose to take advantage of his petite frame in order to wiggle to freedom. The 25-year-old Rustam had been arrested for robbery and was thrown in jail. Shakrutinov, nicknamed the Snake Man by Russian media, realized that he was skinny enough that he could just about squeeze his way through the food delivery hatch of his cell. The only thing standing in his way was the resistance his clothes would offer. So, stripping naked, the man clambered headfirst through the hatch, bursting out of his cell and into the corridor in a manner disturbingly reminiscent of that infamous rhino scene in Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. CCTV footage reveals the baffling moment he comes uncomfortably slinking out of the hatch, only to casually get dressed as if all is normal, and saunter off down the corridor to freedom. Crazily, a similar thing once happened in an episode of The X-Files. We can't help but wonder if that's what inspired him. And as far as we can tell, was never successfully apprehended again. Of all the methods, we did not think this would be the one to work. The second most famous Yoshi after the little green dinosaur Mario rides around the Mushroom Kingdom, Yoshi Shiratori is infamously known as the man no prison could hold. This Japanese Houdini has slipped out of more cells than you've had hot dinners. There is truly no one who hates incarceration as much as he did. While early Japanese prisons were easier to break out of than a paper bag, since the mid-70s, the annual number of successful escapes countrywide is down to
I would imagine no type of warden would want that type of headache on his hands. He probably got denied to come to several prisons because he got a track record for breaking out and being probably successful at it.
single digits, meaning Yoshi's statistical chance of escape was slimmer than Rustam Shakrutinov's body. But he wasn't going to let that deter him. Initially arrested for murder and robbery, he was locked up in Aomori prison. But a mere 3 years later, he had picked the lock of his handcuffs and made a break for it. Later caught and put away for life in Akita prison, he managed to slip out of that prison as well by climbing up the walls every night and gradually unhinging the air vent. One night he finally wriggled through it and ran to freedom. Having escaped 2 times, Yoshi was transferred to Abashiri prison, an Alcatraz-style facility in that it is normally reserved for the worst of the worst. But no, not even this place could get the restless Shiratori to stop running. Every morning he spat miso soup on the doorframe of his cell, the salts within slowly corroding and weakening the doorframe. During the wartime blackout of August 25th, 1944, Yoshi deliberately dislocated his shoulder and wriggled through the small space on the metal frame.
Yo, fam dislocated. Talk about you will not hold me by any means. I'm getting out of here. I will dislocate my own shoulder. What, this? You think this is gonna stop me? Hold on a second. Let me dislocate that and get up out of here. Man, look.
The guards would use to slide in his food. Finally having enough, the Japanese prison system decided to up their game. Yoshi was locked up in Sapporo prison, where he was assigned 6 personal armed guards and was under surveillance 24 hours a day. Yet he still managed to escape. How? You'll have to wait till the end of the video to find that out.
This dude still got out.
Yoga has become something of a hot trend in recent years, but who would have thought it could ever help someone break out of prison? No, Choi Gak-bok didn't meditate his way to freedom. This 50-year-old yoga master had been arrested for suspected robbery and put into a holding cell in South Korea. After 5 days in prison, he decided to exploit a similar method as Rustam, and after covering his entire body with lotion, used the extreme flexibility he had mastered across a lifetime of yoga to squeeze through the food slot at the bottom of his cell. He snuck past the officers on duty, who had all made the mistake of falling asleep, and slipped out a narrow window. While Rustam the Snake Man had struggled, Choi, who was only 5 foot 4 inches tall, had a food slot in his cell that was 5.9 inches tall by 17.7 inches wide, which made it far easier for him to squeeze through. Upon fleeing, Gak-bok escaped and remained on the run for 6 whole days before finally being rearrested. Joaquin Guzman, more notoriously known as El Chapo, is considered the greatest criminal ever to come out of Mexico. The multi-billionaire head of the Sinaloa cartel, Guzman is as dangerous and clever as he is loaded. After he was incarcerated, the authorities thought they finally had the legendary icon behind bars. Chapo became known in prison for his long showers, but he wasn't exactly practicing his singing in there. Chapo was providing himself to be very resourceful and used his shower time to dig a 33-foot deep hole that dropped slap bang into an underground tunnel. On July 11, 2015, the guards noticed that Guzman's shower was even longer than usual, prompting them to pop their heads in and check. They found the hole, they found the tunnel, but Guzman was nowhere to be seen. He had made a break for it. The tunnel led to a construction site where Chapo, presumably still covered in shampoo and soap, swiped a motorbike and rode to freedom. The crazy thing is, this is far from El Chapo's first prison break. Back in 2001, Guzman was incarcerated in it.
I never knew how El Chapo got out, but now that's crazy. Fam, how y'all letting my man take long showers like that?
Different prison, and used his money to wrap almost every member of the staff around his little finger.
But you know what that sounds like to me? Probably overworking, underpaid guards. Probably. You know what I'm saying? You start becoming lax on your job, you become disgruntled, you ain't really paying attention. Long as your life is safe, you ain't really caring about that. Or they could have had some of the people inside on it. El Chapo, I think his money was pretty long, right? Yeah. We don't know.
Swiftly becoming the king of the castle. With almost all the guards on his payroll, he was soon able to bribe a few of them into helping him slip out by hiding him in a laundry basket that was escorted to freedom by maintenance worker Javier Camberos. Poor Camberos was almost immediately locked up for the role he played, while Guzman remained at large until 2014, even getting plastic surgery to help himself avoid the police. His second prison break saw him free as a bird for only 2 years, and he is now safely back behind bars. But for how long? After all, Yoshi Shiratori before him managed more than 2 escapes. On that note, ready to find out how Yoshi escaped from a triple max slam a 4th time?
Yes.
The staff of Sapporo prison made 2 major errors. 1, they had put so much work into making sure he couldn't slip through the vent in the ceiling, they hadn't focused on the floor. 2, they were so confident they didn't bother to handcuff him. Undoing the bolts that tied together his cell's floor, he used the dog bowl he had been fed with to dig his way out. You've got to applaud the man's commitment. Which prison escape did you find the most impressive? And if you were locked up, would you accept it or try and find a way to wriggle to freedom? Let us know in the comments.
It all depends on how much. If I got life, then I mean, what can you do for me at that point? If I got life without parole, yeah, I'm trying. At that point, I mean, what you gonna do to me after that? It's nothing. I'm trying.
The 10 most dangerous prison inmates in the world. We all know that prisons are one scary place, mainly because of who's in them. We all see bad criminals in newspapers from time to time, but these are the scariest and most dangerous prison inmates you don't even know about. Before we get into it, be sure to subscribe to my new channel, The Crafty. Link's in the top right corner now, check it out. Coming in at number 10, we have The Real Pennywise. We all know the hit book, miniseries, and now movie It. It is about a clown that goes around scaring kids and taking their lives. This is good for a fright, but it's all fiction, right? Well, not exactly, because back in the 1980s, which is when the It movie was set, there was a real-life version of Pennywise. The guy was called John Wayne Gacy, and he was, on the surface, a normal husband and father, but he had a crazy secret life. He began to dress up as a character he called Pogo the Clown. Pogo was supposed to be like Bozo, but as I said, this guy's more like Pennywise. That is because he would volunteer at children's parties. During this time, he would take as many kids as possible and then take their lives. They found missing people in his crawl space inside his house and in a nearby river. He's gone down as one of the most scary and most dangerous criminals to ever exist. Luckily, he's locked up behind bars today, but this still doesn't change how terrifying he really is. I'm pretty sure this guy's put a lot of people off clowns forever. Next up is Lobster Boy. This criminal is very odd and has lived one of the most odd lives ever lived. His real name is Gravy Franklin Stiles Jr. He was nicknamed Lobster Boy thanks to a condition that's common in his family. He went into the carnival at the age of 7 as there weren't many things he could do thanks to his hands. He later got married to another carnival performer, but as he aged he became angry and drank way too much, which caused him to turn evil. He was horrible to his wife and 4 kids, 2 of which had hands like he did. When one of his kids without the odd hands grew up and got married, he became jealous and shot her husband in the face. He went to prison but was released years later. He then began to say he would do the same thing he did to his kid's husband to his wife, as she'd got remarried when he was locked up. But his wife didn't want to take any chances, so she paid another carnival worker $1,500 to take him out. Nobody came to his funeral, and on his grave was just his name and 2 praying hands. Wow, those hands just...
That was a crazy series of events. He shoots the husband, I think, of his child or whatever, goes to jail. I think I got that right. I could be wrong. Says he'll do the same thing to his wife because she remarried while he was in there. She says, nah, fam, we ain't doing that. Had somebody take him out when he came out. Bro, I want to go to their family reunion just to see, bro. What type of people? Savages.
Sad insult to injury. Next up is Eyeball Man. This is not only one of the scariest and most dangerous criminals, but he's also one of the scariest looking men on this planet. In 2012, he was arrested for shooting a cop in a bathroom argument. Now that's bad enough, but that isn't what brought him media attention. What brought him all this attention was the scary tattoos he had all over his face. He's obsessed with tattoos and has over 20 just on his face. But his face isn't the only place he has tattoos. He also has a tattooed black eyeball, which is why many people call him Eyeball Man. His real name is Jason Barnum, and he is one scary looking guy. From his Facebook photos, we can also see this guy has tattoos all over his entire body. Not only that, he's got a giant skull tattoo on the top of his head, so maybe he should be called Skull Man instead.
See? Imagine you go to jail, they take you to your cell, the doors open up, you go inside your cell, and this dude meets you. At that point, what you doing? Cell closed behind you, and he just staring at you. At that point, it's to the death then. Because I feel like I ain't going to be able to get no sleep. I feel like I'm going to be always trying to keep one eye open. I'm going to sleep with one eye open. Nah, one of us got to go. Either you going to get me or I'm going to get you. We might as well go ahead and hash it out now.
This guy looks so scary. Even if he hadn't committed a crime, I think he'd still make this list. I know you shouldn't normally judge a book by its cover, but perhaps this guy is an exception.
Definitely an exception to the rule.
Coming up next is the Red Ripper. This guy's nickname is the Red Ripper. It's a parody of Jack the Ripper, who took the lives of hundreds of women in England many years ago. And the red part is because this guy's from Rostov in the Soviet Union, which is now Russia. His real name is Andrei Chikatilo, and he took the lives of over 52 women and children over a span of 12 years. He was a suspect in many crimes for many years, and was in and out of jail. but there was never enough evidence to convict him of anything serious. Finally, after a police snare in 1990, he was caught and confessed to taking 36 people's lives. But this was found to be an understatement, and he was convicted of doing this to 52 people in 1992. However, it seems the Russian police wanted him to get some karma, so they took his life as a punishment. I'm not trying to make fun of anyone's appearances here either, but this guy looks seriously creepy as well. He just looks like a typical James Bond villain, don't you think? Next up is Monster. Now, there's a very good reason I'm calling this woman a monster. That's because she is so evil, it's Hollywood worth.
What y'all thought, ladies? Y'all was gonna be left out of this? Nah!
A movie was made about her and her crimes, and Charlize Theron won many awards for playing her in the movie Monster. Her real name is Aileen Wuornos, and she's one of the only women on this list. But don't worry, ladies, this is a good thing, as she is awful. She took the lives of 7 men between the years 1989 and 1990. She unfortunately did have a
The widower? Good God!
pretty rough childhood, but that still didn't stop people from being seriously angry when her crimes came to light in 1991. She was arrested and confessed to everything 4 days later. She remained in jail for about 11 more years until she passed away herself thanks to the jury vote. In court, she was acting crazy and freaked out all the jurors and even the judge. The reason she got such a harsh sentence is because she showed absolutely no remorse and said she would happily do it all again. Next up is Game Show Contestant. This is not only one of the most scary and dangerous men ever, but one of the creepiest. His name is Rodney Alcala, and he took the lives of 5 women in the 1970s. But he subsequently admitted to doing this 34 more times. And now cops believe he's done this more than 140 times across the USA after more investigations. But
Are you just, like, 34 more times? Like, they meant nothing to you. That's like a person who just stabbed somebody like 52 times. At some point in time, like, come on, bro. Like, 52, like, after 3, you should be like, all this blood. No, you did it like several more. These dudes, I don't know, man. Just thinking about 34 more times, and they killed 34 more people like it was nothing.
the creepy thing about this guy that he will always be remembered for is appearing on a game show called The Dating Game. And believe it or not, he actually won. He was introduced by the host as a photographer, which is creepy as he would lure his victims, who were mainly models, to him by saying this. In the show, the woman would ask questions to a bunch of guys to determine which guy was the best to go out with according to the audience. One of the women, named Cheryl's question, said, "What's the best time?" He replied, "Nighttime, because night is the only time there is, and night is when things really get good." There were a lot more creepy answers to questions I won't even get into, but in the end, she said he was too creepy to go out with despite him winning. Talk about good judgment. Well done, Cheryl, you quite literally dodged a bullet. Next up is Underwear Strangler. Yeah, as you can tell by this guy's name, he is seriously strange. This guy's real name is Johann Unkenwagen, but he went as Jack. He's Austrian, and ever since his youth, he was in and out of jail for petty theft and things like that. But in 1974, he changed for the worse. He strangled a woman with her own bra until she passed. He then did this to around 40 more women, and then moved to LA where he did it some more. He got caught, but was somehow freed from prison, but then later went on to do it 4 more times. Finally, the LAPD stopped him, and he was given a life sentence. But the creepy thing about this guy is he was writing for magazines during all this, and people didn't even know it was him writing. Imagine your favorite columnist doing something like this. I don't know about you, but that would really freak me out. And even after he went to jail, he was still writing in his cell. He was in prison for around 4 years, but then chose to take his own life by a similar method he used on other people. I guess that's karma for you. Next up is Human Plague. This is a nickname nobody wants to have, unless perhaps you're Mary Malone. This woman holds the all-time record for taking the most lives accidentally. She was a cook in New York for wealthy families and in some offices too, but everywhere she went, a terrible scenario seemed to play out. Within 2 weeks of any place she became a cook at, all of the residents or workers developed serious conditions. And as healthcare back then wasn't so great, a huge amount of people ended up passing away. She was investigated by the police many times as they spotted a very obvious pattern of this happening over 20 times. But Mary denied doing anything to the food and said it was all one big coincidence. But it turned out Mary herself was very ill. She knew this and caused all the food to become bad and give others illnesses. She claimed she had no idea about it. She was treated and then lived freely outside of jail. And the police actually acted like she was a victim because she was sick. But in a diary entry found decades later, she revealed she knew about her condition the entire time. What?
Seriously?
Watch out for your lunch ladies, kids. Next up is BTK. This guy's real name is Dennis Rader, but the authorities and the media called him BTK. I'm not gonna go into what that means, but suffice to say, it ain't nice. Between 1974 and 1991, he took the lives of at least 10 people in Kansas, USA. Much like the Zodiac, he would taunt and tease the police with letters mocking them for not being able to catch him. But these letters actually led to his eventual arrest in 2005. But the kicker is how they found out the BTK was Dennis. He sent them a floppy disk with a message making fun of the police who couldn't catch him. But from that, they extracted a deleted file about his church, as he was an avid member surprisingly. They then used DNA evidence of him on the floppy disk and at the church and finally tracked him down and arrested him.
Ah, that's what you get. See, we be thinking we delete stuff. Ah, man, that stuff, especially nowadays, you ain't deleting nothing. It's going somewhere that they can retrieve it somewhere. So don't think because you hit the little delete button on whatever device you have that it's just poof, gone. Absolutely not.
He was found guilty of 10 people's passings and was sentenced to jail time in 2005. And this criminal is still behind bars today. But don't worry, the judge says he's never coming out. Next up is Hands On. This man is famous as he took over 5,000 lives just by using his hands, hence the nickname Hands On. His real name was Sol Fiklar, and he was around during the Ottoman Empire. He took an average of 4 lives per day for 5 years. But how did he do it with his
Whoa. Get the calculator out. Whoa. Where is it at? There it goes. 365 times 4. Make sure I did that right. 3 lives. What is that? 4 lives a day times 7. That's 28 in a week. Yep. 1,456 lives a year. Per year. What he said, 5 years? 7,280 lives, bro.
bare hands? Well, it was all by strangling. Believe it or not, he did this to every person, and it worked every time. He was either very strong or very skilled, but he's definitely a madman. This one is pretty historic, going all the way back to the Ottoman Empire, but there were terrible people back then too, I guess. He had no motive, or at least no known motive, and historians say he would make an amazing athlete today. But to top it all off, he actually worked for the ruler of the Ottoman Empire at the time and was their royal gardener. But he never went after the ruler or anyone of much importance. Maybe that's one tangle he knew he wouldn't have won. As I said, guys, be sure to check out my new channel.
How do you kill? I ain't hear nothing else after that. How do you kill 7,000 people, like over 7,000 people like that, and with your bare hands every time? Insanely crazy. Like, that's probably got to be the largest body count I've ever heard. Y'all know one different. Let me know in the comment section, man. That's insane. So what y'all thought, man? The escaped convicts and the convicts that you didn't want to be in prison with. And the most dangerous prison inmates in the world. Y'all let me know in the comment section, man. It's your boy L. To the next reaction. I'm out. Peace. Y'all stay solid. Hey.